I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
Welcome to the Critical Cinema Club and the first Throwback Thursday of 2024. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video for a quick update with regards to future videos. Released on the 20th of June 1975, Jaws captivated and terrified audiences by playing on the fear of the unknown whilst also examining themes of greed, revenge, heroism and survival instincts when faced with danger. Jaws was a critical and financial success, to the surprise of no one watching this review I'm guessing, but it was innovative in many ways. Firstly, with the way that Universal marketed the film, which was seen as unprecedented at the time, with the studio reportedly spending $1.8 million just for marketing alone. That included $700,000 for national TV spots to air at prime time. Adverts for the movie were everywhere, from billboards to newspaper ads, with the producers Richard Zanuck and David Brown featuring on television and radio talk shows to promote the movie, along with Peter Benchley, who also promoted the paperback release of his novel. As part of the marketing, merchandise was also made available, which included t-shirts, toys, a soundtrack album, beach towels and hobby kits. You name it, they made it. As I said before, this was deemed as unprecedented for the time, but wouldn't be out of the ordinary for today's standards. This is one of the reasons why Jaws is noted as the birth of the summer blockbuster and a watershed moment in motion picture history. Peter Benchley's novel of the same name was published in 1974 and was developed from Benchley's interest in shark attacks, learning of the exploits of Montauk, New York fisherman Frank Mundus in 1964. Mundus is said to be the key inspiration of the character of Quint. Zanuck and Brown read the novel before publication and purchased the film rights, selecting Steven Spielberg to direct. At the time, Spielberg was known for directing TV episodes of series such as Columbo, The Psychiatrist and Night Gallery, amongst a few others. He was probably best known for directing TV movies such as Something Evil, Savage and, probably more well known, Duel, produced by Universal Studios about another predator of sorts. There are many differences between the novel and the film to allow for the movie to solely focus on the shark and the characterisation of the three main protagonists. It is fair to say that the movie is very different to the book and not just a rehash. Spielberg said that upon reading the book, he was rooting for the shark because the three main protagonists of Brody, Hooper and Quint were so unlikable. Benchley did write an early version of the screenplay that Spielberg didn't like, with Carl Gottlieb rewriting the screenplay to match up with Spielberg's vision. Amongst changes from book to film were plot points such as Brody not being from Amity originally. He's Amity-born in the book and from New York in the film, and now has a fear of water which he didn't have in the book. This also forms the majority of his arc in the movie. Brody is also short-tempered and violent in the book, with him being portrayed as a good family man in the movie, much more relatable. Hooper from the book is much more egotistical with a lack of charm, and it's a massive departure to how he's portrayed in the film, with Quint actually being far more cruel in the book, if you can actually believe that, and there was no USS Indianapolis speech in the book. In the book, Ellen Brody has much more of a presence, who is undergoing marital issues with her husband Martin. There is also a subplot of Ellen having an affair with Hooper being the younger brother of a former boyfriend of Ellen's. In the movie, Ellen is portrayed as a much more loving and supportive wife, almost acting as Martin Brody's conscience. Another omitted plot point from the book included Mayor Vaughn having ties with the mafia, with this being his main motivation to keeping the beaches open as he is in debt with the mob, which is a much more selfish reason behind his decisions. In the movie, Vaughn is more blinded by the need to keep things going for the town, wanting the summer season revenue streams to keep flowing, as it could be seen as a major hit to the town's economy if anything prevented this. In the book, Vaughn is written more as a villain, whereas in the film, he's not really a villain at all, but just naive.
That you are going to ignore this particular problem until it swims up and bites you on the ass.
It's been well documented that Jaws was fraught with issues, most notably with the mechanical shark named Bruce. They were unable to get the shark to work when needed, and along with many issues with filming on the ocean, this caused Spielberg to rethink his filming methods. By all means correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but I don't believe that Spielberg has directed another movie solely or even partially based on the ocean, save for a few scenes in some select movies. The reason being due to the issues he encountered during the making of Jaws. This change in presentation was a bit of a happy accident and is what is credited to the less is more approach, where we hardly see the shark until much later in the movie. This really did give a sense of dread to the water scenes because we as the viewer don't know when the shark's going to strike. Although one big clue was the musical score. The two-note motif signalled when the shark was near, quickening and becoming louder just as the shark approached its prey before finally attacking. became more horrifying with some of the action filmed from the shark's perspective. These two notes proved to be one of the most enduring themes of all time, with the legendary John Williams crediting Jaws as the film that jump-started his career, teaming up with Spielberg on pretty much everything Spielberg directed going forwards. The music really does help to capture the mood and helps to build tension. This theme has become synonymous with approaching danger, even to the point of parody at times, but remains to be one of the most inspired pieces of music ever composed. Going back to the three main protagonists, Brody, Hooper and Quint, played by Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw respectively, all three feel like real people who are fleshed out and relatable, as previously discussed. The story is pretty simple and linear, but this is to the film's credit, with the three characters having their own motivations for going after the Great White. Brody, as chief of police, wants to protect his town from this predator, but things get personal for him when his son Michael is involved in an attack near the middle of the film. He fears the water and what lurks beneath the waves, outlined by his obsessiveness with sharks. Ironic really, as he lives on an island, although he does counter this by saying that it's only an island if you look at it from the water.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's at the midway point in the film where Mayor Vaughn admits that he was wrong and didn't do the right thing, knowing that his denial of the situation has cost lives. It's also at this point in the film where Brody knows what he needs to do. He must face his fears and go after the shark with Quint and Hooper by demanding that the mayor pay Quint exactly what he wants for hunting down the Great White. Hooper is a wealthy marine biologist who wants to study the shark. He does have a moral understanding of not wanting a shark to continue to feed on the residents of Amity Island, but also seeks knowledge to better understand the shark. Quint, the rough and ready shark hunter, is motivated by money, but there are underlying reasons as to why he wants to go after the Great White, although he initially won't do it unless he's paid what he demands. He is arrogant and egotistical, which is brought to the surface right from the off when the character is introduced during the town meeting, explaining that he is the best person to hunt down the shark, but will only do it for a certain price. After an influx of fishermen arrive on the island to hunt down the shark for a reward put up by the mother of one of the victims, Quint watches on with a smile whilst the horde of fishermen parade around a shark that they've just caught, the wrong shark. I always interpreted this as though Quint knew that it was the wrong shark, an educated guess if you will, and he also knows that the town will have to give in to his demands before too long. However, he does have other motives due to his past experiences. This is encapsulated brilliantly during Quint's USS Indianapolis monologue, which Robert Shaw delivered in one take, albeit the second attempt a day after the first. His first attempt was unusable due to Shaw being intoxicated at the time. Robert Shaw did have issues on set due to excessive drinking, to the point where he was given a minder to help curb his drinking during production, although that didn't work out too well because Shaw ended up getting the minder drunk with him, or so the story goes. Each character has his own motivations, but I'd argue that Hooper is the one that doesn't really have an obvious arc. He and Quint are constantly at odds with one another, something that existed between the two actors playing the roles. Hooper feels that he needs to prove himself to him as he's seen as upper class in Quint's eyes, with Quint being working class.
Counting money all your life.
All right. Hey, I don't need this. I don't need this working class hero crap.
Another angle to look at it at is Hooper represents the future with youthful ideas with technology, whereas Quint represents the old school with out-of-touch methods and a sense of non-progression. The way that each of them compare scars is a way of ego measuring and posturing, wanting to outdo one another. Brody watches on almost wanting to get involved but decides not to. Hooper's arc is the youthful, technological and forward-thinking ways survive and outlast the old school stuck in the past ways which are devoured, quite literally. Although Hooper is eaten by the shark in the novel, and was actually intended to also be a victim of the shark in the movie, but due to an error whilst filming the cage being attacked by a real great white shark, the dummy version of Hooper wasn't placed in the cage, with no further footage being captured by the divers. As a result, Spielberg decided to let Hooper survive, which I actually think was a very good decision because it allows the character to complete this arc. Due to Quint's past, he sees sharks as the enemy. He wants to hunt and kill them and make profit from his exploits. His character does have similarities to Captain Ahab from Moby Dick, who is hunting the white whale that crippled him. In this case, Quint was crippled psychologically and sees a great white as his white whale to hunt and kill, but unfortunately for Quint, his fate is the same as Ahab, who succumbs to the very beast he is hunting. Brody's arc is quite simple. He faces his fears and overcomes them. He's in the water, face to face with the predator, and lets his survival instincts kick in. And this is where you get one of the most badass moments in cinema.
Smile, you son of a bitch!
Overall, Jaws is a masterpiece that arguably inspired many other filmmakers of horror films to come. One notable inspiration that I can see is with Alien, where the fear of the unknown and the darkness plays on the minds of the viewer. You rarely see the monster, but it has a lasting impact when it picks off the crew members one by one. Jaws really did make me nervous about going swimming when I was young, and this is a film that really does hold up today. It spawned 3 sequels, none of which are really worth your time, as they do kind of go into the campy silliness of a concept that just cannot be replicated. Although Jaws 2 isn't terrible, but it does fall into that category of redoing the first film but nowhere near as good. The third and fourth films are just a waste of time, so don't even bother. There have been many other films of varying quality that you could argue are directly inspired by or influenced by Jaws. Films such as Tremors, which is brilliant by the way and well worth watching if you haven't already done so, Deep Blue Sea, which ain't great that's for sure, and the Meg films, which are just stupid. And not to mention all of the Sci-Fi Channel Shark Attack Asylum movies, which are pretty comical but terrible at the same time. Another film that I see as heavily influenced by Jaws is Jordan Peele's Nope. It's another film that takes the concept of the hidden predator in the spirit of Jaws and does it really well. I know I seem to say this quite a lot on these Throwback Thursday reviews, but Jaws truly is a cinematic classic. It remains a watershed moment in movie history and it stands the test of time. It's a film that I can go back and watch every now and again, and it never fails to entertain yet unnerve me. It is one for the ages. It's an interesting movie to discuss because you can debate whether it had been as gripping, thrilling, unnerving and terrifying had the shark worked and audiences saw the beast much more, rather than what we got with Spielberg having to show much less and the viewer needed to use their imagination more. As described before, I called the breakdown of practical effects a happy accident because I really don't think Jaws would have had the same impact if you did see the shark from the outset. What you don't see can be terrifying.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Many thanks for watching this week's Throwback Thursday on Jaws, but just to let you know, the Throwback Thursdays won't be coming weekly as they were in 2023 due to other commitments, but we'll try and get these out whenever we can. We really appreciate everybody who watches, likes and comments on the videos, and if you haven't already subscribed, we would really appreciate it if you could do so. Anyway, I've been Colm from the Critical Cinema Club, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you.